to my great room, and when we start the session, for the participant, and great for all the opportunities and action that life shares with them. आगे भैया यहीं से हमने तो ये खाई थी पहले हमने सोचा आलू ले ले तो मैं कहती ये नहीं खाया बहुत दिन तो ले ली मीटिंग तो सात सात सेशन can we wait for participants already shared the link
Welcome everyone. Start the session in next 5 minutes. Hello everyone. But sir, am I audible clearly?
Yes, your voice is a little low, by the way.
Is it proper now?
Yes, a bit proper. Yes.
Thank you so much. Welcome everyone. I'm Shubh Parmar, your host for today's webinar. My team and I are here to make sure your seamless and engaging experience. If you have any questions or need assistance, feel free to use the chat window. We are here to help. So the topic for today is building AI-powered Python apps with Pydantic AI. This webinar is hosted by the ATC community, a hub for enthusiasts passionate about cloud technologies, AI, machine learning, IoT, open source development, and DevOps. Um, about Synergetics, Synergetics is a leading edge learning solutions provider in India, offering specialized training and consulting services. We empower businesses and professionals to thrive in today's fast evolving tech landscape by delivering transformative learning experiences. Our core focus is on enabling digital transformation through innovative skilling programs, advisory services, and end-to-end implementation support. From modernizing IT frameworks to mastering emerging technologies like AI, cloud computing, and DevOps, Synergetics is committed to equipping you with the tools and knowledge to succeed. These are the learning solutions which are offered by Synergetics, which are persona based onboarding, onboarding add on, certification, certification add on, reskilling, emerging technology training, certification hackathon, cloud adoption, latest technology training, sales pre sales training, practice playbook, and architecting. This is the Microsoft certification skilling journey. The journey begins with the fundamental certification, then progresses to advanced role based certification, and finally to expert level certification. We run communities on Meetup. This is the emerging technology community. Anyone who are eager to learn about technological knowledge can join this community on Meetup. We have multiple communities in Pune, Gujarat, Nagpur, and Indore. Those who are interested to join this community, please log in to the Meetup app and gain your knowledge for free. We are thrilled to have Mr. Smith Shah as our today's speaker. He's a certified Microsoft trainer and a consultant at Synergetics. He brings a wealth of knowledge and experience in AI and cloud technologies. The agenda for this webinar is understand the fundamentals of Pydantic AI and its role in structured LLM applications, create tied functions and prompt templates using AI function and prompt, use tool and tool call abstractions for safe agent design, run and compose LLM calls using chat sessions and chat messages. You have to follow the code of conduct, which will create a respectful environment for all the participants. Participants, please note you're not allowed to take screenshot of the presentation and cannot do screen recording. I would like to take a moment to share some information about the certification workshops we conducted at Synergetics. The Saturday webinars you have been attending are designed to give you a brief overview and summary of the full course content. However, the HL certification training programs for these courses run over 4 days, and we are currently offering them at a special discounted rate exclusively for webinar attendees. On my screen, you can see the list of in demand certification courses we are currently focusing on. For more details or to register, feel free to contact Mr. Vivek Balasundaram. I will share his contact and his email ID in the chat box. You can connect with him for more details. All right, everyone, it's time for a quick quiz to make our session a little more interactive and fun. We have 5 questions lined up, and each one will test your knowledge for today's topic. But don't worry, it's all about learning. So think of this as a chance to check how much you have picked up. So, guys, quickly drop your answers in the chat box after each question. So you can see the question one. What is the primary purpose of Pydantic and Python applications? Quickly drop your answers in the chat box, guys. I request everyone to answer. Let's see who knows well. So quickly drop your answers in the chat box. I see very few of them answering. Please do answer. So yes, option B is the right answer, data validation and type enforcement. We will jump to the next question. How does Pydantic AI enhance AI-powered Python app development? Quickly drop your answers in the chat box. Is it answer A, B, C, or D? I request everyone to answer. Drop your answers in the chat box quickly. Yes, B is the correct answer by automating data validation and model integration. We'll jump to the next question. Which Python feature does Pydantic rely on for defining data models? Is it answer A, B, C, or D? Quickly drop your answers in the chat box. I see very few of them answering. It would be fun if everyone do answer. Just quickly drop your answers in the chat box. So C is the correct answer for this question. Type hence annotations. We'll jump to the next question. What is one advantage of using Pydantic AI in LLM-based applications? This is under answer A, B, C, or D. Quickly drop your answers in the chat box, guys. I can see everyone well prepared for this session. So option B is the right answer for this question. It improves data consistency and reduces integration errors. We'll jump to the last question. Pydantic AI is most useful for developers who want to quickly drop your answers in the chat box. This is the last question. Answer A, B, C, or D. So the correct answer for this question is option C, integrate AI models with validated data structures. I hope everyone enjoyed this quiz. So do follow us on our social media platforms to get relevant updates on upcoming webinars, workshops, and certification training we do. I've already shared the link in the chat box. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening to me. Now we'll hand over the mic to a speaker, Smith, so you can take over from here.
Yes, thanks, Shubh. Good afternoon to each and every one of you, and welcome to today's session on Pydantic AI. My name is Smith Shah, and I will be your mentor for today's session. I'm a Microsoft certified trainer. On top of that, I'm a Azure certified data scientist, a Azure certified AI engineer, as well as a Azure certified data engineer. And I've been conducting trainings in the data science and AI field since the last 7 to 8 years for multiple clients, including LTI Mindtree, Capgemini, Cognizant, Accenture, and many, many more. So that was just a brief introduction about me. Now let's start with our agenda of today's session. So as all of you know, we are gathered over here to talk about Pydantic AI, which is a AI library basically that will help you to extend the capabilities of your Gen AI model. So first I will show you how to interact with the Gen AI model, but you will realize that the Gen AI model will only answer based on information that is part of its training data. So if you ask a Gen AI model a question like, give me the stock price of Apple today, by default, it will not be able to give you that answer. So in order to make the Gen AI model answer something outside of its training data, we'll need help of a concept called agents. And Pydantic AI is one such library that will help you to create agents. There are other libraries as well. Pydantic AI is one of them. All right. So let's go ahead. And please note that first, we will be deploying a Gen AI model. Once the Gen AI model is deployed, then we'll be interacting with it. Okay. Now I'm sure that all of you would have interacted with some of the other Gen AI model by now, whether it's a Gen AI model like Gemini, which is created by Google company, or whether it's a Gen AI model like Claude Sonnet, which is created by Anthropic company, or whether it's a GenAI model like GPT 3.5 or GPT 4, which is created by OpenAI company. Currently, there is an agreement between OpenAI company and Azure company. As per that agreement, whatever GenAI models OpenAI company will create, they will make those GenAI models available on Azure as well. I repeat my statement. Currently, there is an agreement between OpenAI company and Azure company. As per that agreement, whatever GenAI models OpenAI company will create, they will make it available on Azure platform as well. And in Azure, whenever any feature is made available to you, it is made available to you through a service. So for example, in Azure, you can store data in SQL database. That feature is made available to you through Azure SQL service. Similarly, in Azure, you can store data in Cosmos database. That feature is made available to you using Azure Cosmos DB service. So in Azure, please note that whenever any feature is made available to you, it is made available to you through a service. Okay. Today we'll be talking about Azure OpenAI service. Which service? Azure OpenAI service. Let me mention the name of that over here, so it will become more clear to you. So I'll just launch an annotation tool using which I'll be able to do some drawings on the screen. Perfect. So as I mentioned, the service that we'll be using in today's lecture will be called Azure Open. Now in Azure, there is a rule. Whenever you want to use any service of Azure, you have to go ahead and create a resource of that service. I repeat myself, in Azure, whenever you want to use, I should say, okay, let me use the right term over here, use. Whenever you want to use any service of Azure, you have to go ahead and create a resource of that service. So if I want to use Azure OpenAI service, what I will have to do? I will have to create a resource of that service. I will have to create a resource of this service. Fine, let's do it. So in I will try to search Azure OpenAI service. I can see an option for it in the search result. Let me click on that option. And now what I'll do is I'll go ahead and create a resource of Azure OpenAI service. There is a create button displayed to me. Using it, I will try to create a resource of Azure OpenAI service. Let me do that. When I try to create a resource of Azure OpenAI service, I'm redirected to a form which I will have to fill. Let's understand each field present in this form. The first field present in the form is asking me about subscription. What is subscription? Let's understand. Please note that from your Azure account, you can create multiple subscriptions for different employees of your organization. Maybe one subscription you can create for a person in the HR team. Second subscription you can create for a person in the IT team, and so on. Like that, for different employees, you can create different subscriptions. Okay. Now, each subscription can have different set of permissions assigned to it. For example, the first subscription that you are creating is for a person in the HR team. This person is not going to do a lot of work on Azure. Probably this person is only going to use Azure to store some files, which is why in this subscription that you are creating for HR employee, you will only give access to storage service of Azure. Whereas the second subscription that you are creating is for a person in the IT team. This IT person will do a lot of work on Azure, which is why in the subscription that you are creating for this IT employee, you will give access to all the services of Azure. So the point that I'm making is, from your Azure account, you can create multiple subscriptions for different employees of your organization. Every subscription can have different set of permissions assigned to it, and every subscription can have different amount of money uploaded into it. For example, the first subscription that you are creating is for a person in the HR team. This HR person will not do a lot of work on Azure, which is why in the subscription that you are creating for this HR employee, you will upload less amount of money, something like $10. On the other hand, the second subscription that you are creating is for a person in the IT team. This IT person will do a lot of work on Azure, which is why in the subscription that you are creating for this IT employee, you will upload more amount of money. Let's suppose something like $500. So the point that I'm making is from your Azure account, you can create multiple subscriptions for different employees of your organization. Each subscription can have different set of permissions assigned to it, and each subscription can have different amount of money uploaded into it. So currently only one subscription is available to me. This subscription is given to me by Microsoft. Every Microsoft certified trainer will be given this subscription to them so that we can conduct lectures on Microsoft products. Next, I am being asked to upload my resource in some of the other resource group. It's mandatory that whenever you will create a resource in Azure of any service, not just OpenAI service, if you will create a resource of any service in Azure, that resource will have to fall within some of the other resource group. A resource group is like a folder for your resources. There are multiple benefits of having a resource group. Let's understand the benefits. Let's suppose you are working on a project. Okay. Let's assume that you are working on a project, and for that project, you had to create 20 different resources. One resource was of Azure OpenAI service. Another resource was of Azure SQL service and so on. Let's assume you had to create 20 different resources like this. Now, suppose after 6 months, your project is over. Since your project is now over, these resources are of no further use for you. So what will you do? You will delete the resources, right? One way to delete them is to go to every resource individually and click on the delete button to delete them. So you will go to your first resource, click on the delete button to delete that resource. You will go to your second resource, click on the delete button to delete that resource, and so on. Like that, you can delete every resource individually. But that is a very tedious process, right? Instead, why don't we have resources that belong to the same project inside the same exact resource group? And when the time for deletion will come, at that time, I can directly delete the resource group. With that, all the resources in that resource group will automatically get deleted. So it's like if I delete a folder, all the files in the folder automatically get deleted, right? Similarly, if we delete a resource group, all the resources in that resource group automatically get deleted. So that is one benefit of resource group, which is lifecycle management. There are other benefits as well. Let's look into one more benefit. Let's suppose you are working on a project for which you had to create 20 different resources. Now you want to calculate the overall cost incurred by your project. One way to do that is to go to every resource individually and see the individual cost incurred because of that resource. So you might go to your first resource and observe that your first resource costed you around $10.9. You might go to your second resource and observe that your second resource costed you around $5.72 and so on. Like that, different resource will charge you differently based on the work done with that resource. Now, in order to arrive at the overall cost incurred by your project, what will you do? You will take a sum of all the individual cost so that you can arrive at overall cost incurred by your project, right? But that is a very tedious process. Instead, why don't we have resources that belong to the same project inside the same exact resource group? And when the time for cost calculation will come, at that time, I can directly go to the resource group level and just by a single click of the button, just by a single click of the button, I can get a cumulative cost of all the resources in that resource group. So this is second benefit of resource group, which is cost management. Like that, there are multiple benefits. In short, just remember that resource group helps you for better management of resources. So you can either create a new resource group or select an existing one. Let me create a new resource group called test RG. You can name it anything that you like. It's up to you. Next, I'm being asked to assign a region for my resource. There are 3 points to note with respect to region. Point one is make sure that you choose a region closer to your user for lower latency. So if your user is in United States, make sure that you choose a region closer to United States for better latency. Second point to note is make sure that you avoid East US region. Since the last few months, East US region is suffering from a lot of traffic related issues. So if you create a resource in this region, a resource will be created, but when you will try to access the resource, you might face strange errors like authentication related errors. Although you are trying to authenticate correctly, but still you will face those errors, and that's because of traffic related issue. So to avoid it, just make sure that you do not choose East US region. Third and last point to note with respect to region is that depending upon the region that you choose, you will have access to different Gen AI models. So it's not like the same Gen AI model that is supported in West US region is also supported in East US region. It's not like that. Different regions will have support for different models. So if you ask me that, Smith, which is that one region which has access to most of the important Gen AI models, it is Sweden Central region. How to know that? Well, only way to know that is by going to the documentation page. So over here, I'll go to the documentation page and we'll try to see that which region has access to which Gen AI models. So you will observe that Sweden Central region is one such region which has access to most of the important Gen AI models. I will show you that once this documentation page is fully loaded, you will be able to see that information. So please note that different regions will have different models supported in them. So it's not like this, if you have a model, if it's supported in West US region, it will also be supported in East US. It might not be. Okay. So best way is go to the documentation page and then see that which region has support for which models. Currently, this page is not being loaded successfully, maybe because of network issue on my side, but I'm giving you a link of this documentation page in the chat. You can refer it later. From this documentation page, you will get the information that I mentioned. You will have to scroll below. Okay, so at the top of the page, it will not mention. So the page is quite big. Scroll at the bottom of the page. There you will see a table. Okay. Currently, this documentation page is not loaded, maybe because of network issue on my side. Okay, but guys, my voice is proper, right? Is there an issue with my voice? Just confirm. I just want to confirm as there could be network issue on my end. Is there an issue with my voice? No, right? I can see some thumbs up. Okay, suggesting that my voice is proper. Fine. Next, I'm being asked to assign a name for my resource. So let me give a name. I will call it webinar OpenAI RES. Make sure that the name that you give is unique. If you pass a name that has already been taken by someone else, you will get an error like this. So make sure that you give a unique name. Okay. And once you give a name to your resource, then it will ask you to choose the pricing tier for your resource. There are two pricing tiers. Earlier, there used to be two pricing tiers. One was free tier, another one was standard tier. The benefit with free tier is that you can use the models for free. You do not have to pay any cost for using the models with free tier. But the disadvantage of free tier is that there are a lot of limitations with respect to usage. So earlier the limit was set to 20 times per 5 hours. So you can only access the models 20 times per 5 hours. Then they increased the limit to 25 times. So they kept on changing that limit after every few weeks. But the advantage of free tier was that it was free to use. But the disadvantage was that there were a lot of limitations with respect to usage. In order to overcome those limitations, you can move on to standard tier. Unlike free tier, where there are a lot of limitations with respect to usage, in standard tier, those limitations do not exist. Okay. But a disadvantage of standard tier is that you will have to pay some cost for usage. Unlike free tier, which is free to use, standard tier is not free to use. In standard tier, you will have to pay some cost. So earlier, we used to have these two pricing tiers, free tier and standard tier. But since the last few months, access to free tier is taken away and only standard tier is left. Which is why if I click on this drop down, I will only see the option of standard tier left. Now let me go to the next page of this form. Here I am being asked to do network configuration. There are three options shown to me. Let me explain each option to you one by one. Although for the demo that I'm going to show you today, I will choose the first option only, which is the default option by the way. But still, let me explain all the options to you so that you can understand the difference between them. So guys, selecting the first option ensures that your resource will be accessible over the internet using a public endpoint. What is a public endpoint? What is an endpoint, by the way? You can think of endpoint as a URL. Okay. In simple words, you can think of it as a URL. So public URL or public endpoint means that the same endpoint or the same URL can be used by you, same can be used by me, and same can be used by others as well. So selecting the first option means that your resource will be accessible using a public endpoint, and anyone connected from any network will be able to access your resource. Of course, provided that the requester has the necessary authentication credentials. So they will still have to provide a key, but anyone from any network will be able to access your resource. On the other hand, selecting the second option means that your resource will be accessible using a public endpoint, but you will be able to restrict access to certain networks that you trust. Okay, so you'll have to specify which are those specific networks that you trust, and only people connected to those specific networks will be able to access your resource. On the other hand, selecting the third option ensures that the resource will not be accessible from any public network, including the internet. The only way to access the resource will be through a private endpoint. What is a private endpoint? A private endpoint basically uses a private IP address from your network, ensuring that the traffic between your network and the service on Azure does not traverse the internet. So guys, the choice among these three options should be guided based on the specific network security requirements of your organization. For public facing services, you might opt for the first option, but for sensitive or internal services, you would likely choose the second or third option. However, for our demonstration today, I will choose the first option, which is the default option, by the way. Next, I'm being asked to do tag configuration. So what are tags? Tags are nothing but name value pairs that you assign to your resource. What is the purpose of assigning a tag? Let's understand with help of an example. Let's suppose you are in a clothing shop. You will observe that every cloth in that clothing shop will have a tag attached to it, right? What is the purpose of that tag? The purpose of that tag is to get you more information about that cloth. So if you ask the shopkeeper to tell you the price of the cloth, the shopkeeper will look at the tag attached to that cloth and tell you that the price is either $10 or $15 or $20, right? Similarly, if you ask the shopkeeper to tell you the size of the cloth, the shopkeeper will look at the tag attached to that cloth and tell you whether the size of the cloth is XL or double XL or triple XL. So what purpose is the tag serving? The tag is attached to the cloth so that it can give more information about that cloth, more information about that item. Similarly, if you want more information about your resource, you can go ahead and assign a tag to your resource. So let's suppose I'm going to create multiple resources of OpenAI service. One resource I might create for a client called Accenture. Another resource I might create for a client called Cognizant. How will I keep a track of which resource I created for which client? What I can do is I can go ahead and assign a tag to my resource. So I will say that this resource was created for a client called Accenture. Now, maybe I conduct multiple lectures for Accenture. So how will I know that this resource I created was for lecture conducted in which date? In that scenario, you can go ahead and assign another tag to your resource, wherein you can specify date related information as well. So in order to assign tag, you need help of tag name and tag value. You can assign any tag name of your choice, and you can assign any tag value of your choice. It's not mandatory for you to assign tags. If you do not want to assign any tags whatsoever, that's fine as well. Now let me click on the next page. Let me click on this next page, next button over here, because of which I will go to the next page of this form. This is the last page of the form. Once we come to the last page of the form, Azure will run a validation in the backend just to check whether it can give me the things that I'm asking for. If the validation is successful, then this create button will get enabled, and you can see it is enabled. Let me click on it, and with this, a resource of OpenAI service will get created. Once the resource is created, I will be able to interact with the models using that resource. Okay. Once the resource is created, I'll be able to interact with the models using that resource. This resource creation will hardly take a minute. So we'll have to wait for around 60 seconds, and soon a resource of OpenAI service will get created. Once the resource is created, then using the resource, we can interact with the models. There are two ways of interacting with the models. One is the without code approach. One is the without code approach, and other is the with code approach. And other is the with code approach. Okay. So today we'll explore the with code approach. That is what our session is all about. We'll explore the with code approach. You can see my resource has been created. Let me go to the resource. And before interacting with the models using the resource, I need to deploy the model first. Okay. So we need to deploy the model. Only once the model is deployed, then only I can interact with that model. So in order to deploy the model, I will click on this button called Explore AI Foundry Portal. Through this portal, I will get an option to deploy any model of my choice. So you can have a look at this Foundry portal. Let me explain the menu options that are displayed to you on your screen. First option is called Home. Here I am able to see various documentation links that can guide me for my task. Apart from documentation links, I can also see various shortcuts that can help me to perform my task at a more faster pace. Then the next option in the menu is called Model Catalog. Here you will be able to see a list of all the models available for your resource. Okay. Now there are different models available. In today's lecture, we'll only be working with text-based models. What are text-based models? Text-based models are those models that take text as input and give text as output. Okay. Officially, those models are called chat completion models. What are they called? They are called chat completion models. So GPT-5 is a chat completion model. GPT 4.1 is a chat completion model. GPT 4.0 is a chat completion model. GPT 4 is a chat completion model, and so on. So if you want to interact with chat completion models, you can click on this chat button. If you want to interact with any of the image-based models, we have this image button. If you want to interact with any of the audio-based models, we have this audio button, and so on. But in today's lecture, we'll only be working with text-based models, also known as chat completion models. Before interacting with that model, it's important to deploy it first. So let's try to deploy a model. I'll click on the deploy button. And here I will have to choose the model that I want to deploy. Let me deploy this popular model called GPT-4. You can deploy any model of your choice. If you want to deploy a more better model than GPT-4 like GPT-4o, you are free to do that as well. GPT-4o stands for GPT-4 optimized. Okay, so that you can deploy any model of your choice. At the time of deployment, it will ask you to provide a name for your deployment. So make sure that you give a meaningful name. By the way, the name that you give over here will be helpful later when we'll use Pydantic AI. So make sure that you give a meaningful name of your choice. You can give any name of your choice, doesn't matter. Fine. Now let me deploy this model. Once the model is deployed, I'll be able to interact with that model. Okay. Now there are two ways to interact with the model. One is the without code approach, other is the with code approach. Okay. If you want to interact with the model using the without code approach, you have this chat section using which you can interact with the model using the without code approach. So if you ask a question like what is the full form of GPT, it will give you the answer. Based on your input message, it will give some output message. Okay. Now, let's suppose I ask a question like what is the stock price of Apple on 21st October 2019. So I think this model that we are using, which is GPT-4o model, this model will be trained on data up till the year 2019. I'm sure on that. I guess if I'm not wrong, GPT-4o is trained on data up till the year 2024. In fact, we can see the date as well. Fine. So over here, you can see that it will definitely have information about 2019, 2020, 2021, and so on. So if you ask the GenAI model a question on which it is trained on, it will be able to give you the answer. So over here, hopefully it should give the answer. If not, for example, here it does not, right? It says, sorry, I cannot give you the answer of stock price. So what is happening? Here it says that it is not trained on that data. Now here comes Pydantic AI. If we want to make the model answer on something outside of its training data, what to do? If we want to train the model outside of its training data, we will take help of a concept called agents. Okay. So currently you can see that the model is not able to give me this information, right? Even if I ask the model to give me information of stock price of Apple company today, okay, it will not be able to give me information. So here I'm asking it to give me stock price of Apple company today. You can see it is not giving that information to me. Okay, so it can only answer questions based on which it is based on which it has knowledge. Okay, so if it doesn't have information about that topic in its training data, it will not be able to give you the answer. Now, here comes the usefulness of Pydantic AI. So please note that if we want to extend the capabilities of Gen AI model by making it answer something outside of its training data, we will need help of a concept called agents. Okay, we'll need help of a concept called agents. So what are agents? A agent is nothing but a tool. Okay, a agent is nothing but a tool that will help the Gen AI model answer something outside of its training data. A agent is nothing but a tool that will help the Gen AI model answer something outside of its training data. So currently you can observe the model is not able to give me stock price. Similarly, if I ask the model to give me weather information, if I ask a question like what is the weather right now in Mumbai, it will not be able to give that information. Why? Because it is not trained on that data, right? You can see it's not able to give you that information. So what if you want to make the model answer something outside of its training data? In that case, you will need help of a concept called agents. So what is an agent? An agent is nothing but a tool that will help the Gen AI model answer something outside of its training data. There are multiple agentic AI libraries using which you can create agents. My personal favorite is LangChain. Okay, but there are other libraries as well, like Llama Index, Pydantic AI. In today's lecture, we'll focus on Pydantic AI. Okay, so let me go ahead and let me create a new folder. And what I will do is I will launch my coding tool pointing to this particular folder. Let me open my coding tool. Here we go. And I will create a coding file called test.py. You can give any name to your file, doesn't matter. Fine. Now let's go ahead. Also, I'll do one thing. Currently, if I write any code because of Copilot, I will get auto completion. So to disable it, I'll make sure that GitHub Copilot is GitHub Copilot extension is deleted. It's uninstalled because every time because of GitHub Copilot, I'll keep on getting auto suggestion in my code, which is very frustrating to look at. So I'll uninstall GitHub Copilot for now. We'll write our code from scratch. Okay. So guys, as we know that the model only answers stuff on which it is already trained on. If you ask it a question on which it is not trained on, it will not be able to give you the answer. So what if you want to extend the capabilities of a Gen AI model by making it answer something outside of its training data? In that scenario, we'll take help of a concept called agents. What is an agent? An agent is nothing but a tool that will help the Gen AI model answer something outside of its training data. And let me do one thing. Okay. Let me do one thing over here. I will launch another coding tool called Google Colab. Sorry, I opened Google Drive. I wanted to open Google Colab. I feel in Google Colab you will be able to understand the code better. Okay, so let me launch Google Colab tool. Okay, just to explain one important point. Doesn't matter which coding tool you use, by the way. Okay, coming to our main point, agent, right? As I mentioned, a agent is nothing but a tool that will help the Gen AI model answer something outside of its training data. Now, Mahesh says, is it agentic AI or AI agent? See, Mahesh, agentic AI is the field. Okay, it is name of the field. So it's a name of the field. Agentic AI is the name of the field that helps you to create agents. Okay, it helps you to create agents. to create AI based agents. Okay, so agentic AI is the name of the field that helps you to create AI based agents. I hope I have answered your query. If not, you can let me know. Then Nikita has a doubt. Nikita says, can we train it using prompt engineering? Nikita, please note that if you're talking about Azure OpenAI, that using Azure OpenAI service, the models that are available over there, can you retrain any of the models? No, you cannot retrain. You can engineer response of the model based on your prompt. So that engineering is different and retraining is different. So you using Azure OpenAI service, if you are wondering, can you retrain any of the models available on Azure OpenAI? No, retraining is not possible. Prompt engineering, yes, of course, that is possible. Okay, so let me show you one. I will show you one example as well. But fine, let me show it to you quickly in 2 minutes. After that, I'll go on to the main part. So since you mentioned about prompt engineering, okay, which is basically engineering response of the model based on your prompt. So for example, let me do one thing. Let's suppose I want the model to do sentiment analysis. Okay, so if I pass a input to the model saying that this hotel has very small rooms. So here I want the model to let me know that the sentiment of the user's input is positive, negative, or neutral. Okay, one out of these three. So in this case, we obviously know sentiment of the user's input is negative, but I want the model to tell me that. But by default, will the model know that I wanted to do sentiment analysis? No, right? How will the model know that I wanted to do sentiment analysis? So whenever I want to give a general direction to the model, that general direction I can give through this field called system message field. What is this field called? System message field. Using system message field, you can go ahead and give general direction to your model. So for example, here we want the model to do sentiment analysis, right? So I'll say give sentiment of users input. Okay, so this is the general direction that I have given to the model. Now, after this, whenever I'll pass any input message, the model will understand that I wanted to do sentiment analysis, and it will tell me whether the sentiment of the user's input is positive, negative, or neutral. In this scenario, it is negative. Now, let's suppose I want to do more customization. Let's suppose I'm part of a company called Zomato, through which people can buy food items, right? And what they want to do is they want to change their recommendation algorithm, by which if a restaurant has a higher score, it should be shown at the top of the recommendation list. If the restaurant has a lower score, it should be shown at the bottom of the recommendation list. Now, how to calculate score for the restaurant? You will tell me that, Smith, maybe using the ratings, we can calculate score. Yes, that's one way. But guys, ratings is a very simple way to calculate score. What Zomato is thinking is, apart from using the ratings, let's also use the reviews that the users will post. As all of you guys are aware, users can also post text reviews wherein they can describe the experience, saying that the food is bad or good. They can describe the experience using some text. So Zomato is thinking, let's use those text reviews as well to calculate score. Okay. And by the way, Shubh, just a request, if possible, please mute your mic. I'll do one thing. I'll mute over here so that students do not hear any background noise. Okay, coming back to our scenario that we are talking about. Okay, wherein I said that let's suppose you are working for a company called Zomato and you want to change the recommendation algorithm, wherein a restaurant having bigger score should be shown at the top of the recommendation list. Restaurant having lower score should be shown at the bottom. How to calculate restaurant score? One way to do that is by using the ratings posted by the users, wherein the users can leave 1 out of 5 rating or 4 out of 5 rating or 5 out of 5 rating. But using ratings is a very simple way. Zomato is now thinking is that what Zomato is thinking is, apart from using the ratings, we should also use the reviews posted by the users, text reviews. So what they are thinking is, we'll use the text reviews, and if at all a user has posted a positive text review, then we'll assign a score of +1 to the restaurant. If at all the user has posted a negative text review, then we'll assign a score of -1 to the restaurant. If at all the user has posted a neutral text review, we'll assign a score of 0 to the restaurant. Okay. How to do this? You might say that, Smith, maybe through system message field we can do it. Yes, we can do that. But guys, sometimes it might happen that just through words, you're not able to communicate the full story. It might happen, right? That just through words, you're not able to communicate the full story. In that scenario, what should I do? Let's suppose I'm trying to train you on some concept, and I feel that just through words, I might not be able to convey the full story. In that scenario, I will try to give examples to you, right? Similarly, if you're trying to communicate something to the model, and if you feel that just through words, you will not be able to communicate the full story, in that scenario, you will provide examples to the model. Here, there is one option to provide examples. You can see when I try to provide examples, two additional fields pop up. One is user message field, other is assistant message field. User message field will act as input for your example. Assistant message field will act as output for your example. Let me provide an example to the model. I will tell my model that if in case user passes a positive input, in that case, the model should output a score of +1. I will give another example. I will tell the model that if in case the user passes the input having negative sentiment, the model should output a score of -1. I'll give another example saying that if in case the user passes the input having neutral sentiment, the model should output a score of 0. Okay, the model should output a score of 0. Fine, let me go ahead and let me save these changes. And now, whenever I'll pass an input message, model will understand that I wanted to do sentiment analysis. Since the sentiment of the user's input is negative, I will get an output of -1. And you will observe that I will get an output of -1 exactly as expected. Similarly, let's assume I pass an input having positive sentiment. Okay, I pass an input having positive sentiment. In case of positive sentiment, I want a output of +1, right? Let's see if the model does that, and you will see the model will exactly do that. Similarly, if in case I pass an input having neutral sentiment, okay, neutral sentiment means some negative thing is also mentioned as well as positive thing is also mentioned. Okay, in that scenario, we want that the model should output a score of 0. Let's see if the model does that. You can see the model exactly does that. So here, what did we try to do? Here we tried to engineer the response of the model based on the input. The input that we provide to the model is also known as prompt. Okay. So we tried to engineer response of the model based on the prompt. This is known as prompt engineering. Okay, this is known as prompt engineering. So over here, I've shown you one example of prompt engineering. There are other ways as well to do prompt engineering. But remember, in prompt engineering, you are engineering the response of the model based on the prompt. You are not retraining the model. Okay, you are not retraining. So fine. I hope the student who asked that question is clear with it. If there are any other doubts, you can let me know. Okay. Pradnesh Savant has a doubt. Pradnesh asks, I missed some part at the start. Can we get recording? Pradnesh, the recording will be available on our YouTube channel. Shubh will post a link of a YouTube channel. Okay, so yes, recording will be available, but it will be uploaded after some time on our YouTube channel. Shubh will give you the timeline about it later. Okay, fine. All right. Coming back to our concept, guys, we were talking about agents, right? That if in case we ask the model a question that is outside of its training data, it will not be able to give the answer, right? So if I ask the model a question like, what is the stock price of Apple today? Model is not trained on today's data, so it will not be able to give you the answer. Okay. Similarly, if I ask a question like, what is the weather of Mumbai today? Model is not trained on today's data, so it will not be able to give you the answer. So what if you want to make the GenAI model answer something outside of its training data? In that scenario, you will need help of a concept called agents. So what is an agent? An agent is nothing but a tool. An agent is nothing but a tool that will help the GenAI model answer something outside of its training data. Okay, fine. So we'll create agents over here. Okay, and you will observe that earlier our model was not able to give us stock price. It was not able to give us weather information, right? But we'll create agents after which the model will be able to give us stock price. It will be able to give us weather information. Okay, so let's create agents. Now, in order to create agents, there are many agentic AI libraries available. So one agentic AI library is called LangChain. Another one is called Llama Index. We have one more, which is Pydantic AI. There are others as well. In this lecture, we'll only focus on Pydantic AI. Okay, so we'll create agents with Pydantic AI. Let me show you how to do that. So how to create agents with Pydantic AI. Okay, so first of all, what I will have to do is I will have to first connect to my model. Okay, because to that model, I will try to attach my agents that I create. But remember, guys, that whenever you are creating agents, the code for that agent has to be written inside of a function. I repeat myself, whenever you are creating an agent, the code for that agent has to be written inside of a function. Okay, the code for that agent has to be written inside of a function. Fine, let me do that. So over here, I'll create a function that will help me to get the stock data. Okay, that will help me to get stock price. So based on the symbol of the company, okay, that I mentioned, it will give me the stock price of that company. So if I mention a symbol like AAPL, AAPL is the symbol of Apple company. So it will give a stock price of Apple. Fine. How to get stock price of any company? Now there are multiple websites available online using which you can get the latest stock price. One such website is called alphavantage.co. This website has free APIs available using which you can get real-time stock price. Okay, real-time stock price. So in order to get real-time stock price, you will have to use a API key. There are free APIs available over here, but to access the APIs, you will need a API key. So let's get a API key. Using the API key, we'll get access to the free APIs available on this website. Now, in order to get a API key, you will have to mention your organization name, then your email ID. Even if you provide a email ID that is not an actual email ID, it will still work. Okay. And you can see you have obtained a API key. Fine. Let me go ahead, let me copy it and paste it in my code. So this is the API key. Now let me mention the API endpoint, which is nothing but the URL that we'll use. In order to get information about that API endpoint or about that URL, we'll go to the documentation page. And from here, we will try to get information about the endpoint which we'll be using in order to get latest stock price. There are multiple APIs available over here. You can see there is one, below that is another, and so on. Each API is created for a different task. So if I want to get the latest stock price, which API should I use? In order to get latest stock price, I have to use this API endpoint. Let me copy it and paste it in my code. So over here, I have obtained the endpoint that I'll be using. Okay, let me mention it. And now let's go ahead. So what I will do is currently have a look at the API endpoint. The symbol of the company is hard coded. Okay, it is hard coded. So over here, what I will do, I don't want it to be hard coded. I want it to be dynamic. I don't want it to be static. I want it to be dynamic. So I'll say whatever symbol the user is passing, the same symbol will be passed in my API endpoint. Okay, so maybe in one instance, the user might pass a symbol like IBM. Maybe next time user might pass a symbol like AAPL. So whatever symbol the user is passing, that symbol will be passed over here. Then even the API key is hard coded. I don't want it to be hard coded. I want it to be dynamic. So I'll say whatever API key is defined earlier, same API key will be passed over here. Since some part of the string is being created dynamically, I'll put a keyword at the start of the string called F. Okay, fine. Indicating that some part of the string is going to get created dynamically. Fine. Now let me pass a request to this API endpoint. In order to pass a request, I'll need help of request library. Okay. Using the request library, we'll pass a request to the API endpoint, and whatever is the response, we'll try to get that response. Okay. Whatever is the response, we'll try to get that response. Now here I should get some status code in the response. Okay. So most probably I will get some status code in the response. Let me show that to you. So here, if I want to get stock price of a company called Apple, It will post the request to the API endpoint, and I should get some status code in my response. A status code of 200 indicates that I have successfully obtained the response. A status code like 400 indicates that there is some error while obtaining the response. Here we get a status code of 200 indicating that we have successfully obtained the response. But let me do one thing. Let me obtain the main data from that response. So I'll make sure that I get that main data, which is in JSON format. That main data I will obtain, and that data I will try to show to you. So I want to get latest stock price of Apple, and I am able to get that information here. Okay. So please note that whenever you want to create an agent, the code for that agent has to be written inside of a function. Okay. So over here, I have done that. Code for my agent is written inside of a function. Now what I will do is this function, I will declare that it's not a normal Python function. Okay, what will I do? I will declare that it's not a normal Python function. It's a special function that contains code for my agent. Okay, so we'll declare that. That's not a normal Python function. It's a special function that contains the code for my agent. We'll declare that later. Then that agent will attach to our model. Which model? Let me try to authenticate to the model first. Okay, so we have already deployed one model earlier. To the same model, we'll try to authenticate. Okay, so let me do the authentication part. So in order to authenticate to the model, I will have to write some code. So what I will do is from OpenAI library, there is a class. If I'm not wrong, sorry, not OpenAI library, I will have to use Pydantic AI library here. From Pydantic AI library, okay, I will try to import a class, and the name of the class, if I'm not wrong, oh sorry, this class will be from OpenAI library only. My mistake. I'm forgetting which library to use, but I guess this library is the correct one. From this library, I will import a class called Azure OpenAI. This class will help me to connect to my OpenAI resource. Okay, it will help me to connect to my OpenAI resource. Let me do that. So first it will ask me for the endpoint of the OpenAI resource. So let me pass the endpoint over here. Okay, so I'll go ahead and pass the endpoint. Please note that if I'm inside of my coding file and I want to use the OpenAI resource, which is available on Azure, currently there is no link between my coding file and the resource that I want to access. So in order to establish that link, I will have to perform some sort of authentication. And in order to perform that authentication, I will require two main things. One is key of the resource. Another is endpoint of the resource. Using these two things, I will perform authentication to the resource. Okay. In order to get key of the resource and endpoint of the resource, I'll go to resource management, and here there will be an option for key and endpoint. From here, I'll be able to get the key of the resource and endpoint of the resource. Let me copy the endpoint and paste it in my code. Similarly, I'll copy the key as well and paste it in my code. Let me copy the key. Here there are two keys available. I can use any of them. It's just that one extra key is given to us for backup purposes. So if anything is wrong with one of the keys, you can use the second one. So you can use any one out of these two keys, doesn't matter which one you use. So let me use any one out of these two keys, copy the key and paste it in my code. Now, one last thing is required. Since we are trying to authenticate to the OpenAI resource using the coding based approach or using the API based approach, we'll have to mention an API version over here. So let's mention an API version. It depends upon you which API version you want to select. I will use the one created on 2023, 15th of May. Like that, there are different API versions. Let me show you a small list of the available API versions. Okay, I'll show you a small list so it will become more clear to you. So you can use any one out of those API versions, doesn't matter which one you use. Okay, have a look. You can see a list over here. At the top is a list of API versions available for the older models. Older models were called completion models. Older models did not remember previous chat history. Okay, they did not remember previous chat history. Whereas newer models are called chat completion models. Newer models do remember previous chat history. Older models did not remember. Newer models do remember. You can see a list of the API versions. You can use any of them. Just a suggestion, make sure to use a API version that is not in preview stage, because if a API version is in preview stage, it's going to get retired soon. So make sure that you choose a API version that is not in preview stage, which is what I did. I used this API version and mentioned it in my code. Okay, that's it. With this, authentication will be performed to my OpenAI resource. And if the authentication is successful, then access to resource will be granted. Okay, then access to resource will be granted. Fine. Now, in this resource, using the resource, I have deployed a model, right? So let me connect to my model. Okay, so let me connect to that model. So in order to connect to that model, I will have to perform my import. So from Pydantic AI library, okay, I'll perform my import over here. From Pydantic AI library, I will import this class called OpenAI chat model. This is the name of the class that I will import. Fine. OpenAI chat model. All right. If Pydantic AI library is not installed in my laptop, I'll try to install it. Let's see. Fine. So using this class, I'll try to connect to my model, because in my using my resource, I've deployed a model, right? So let's connect to our deployed model. So what is our name of our deployed model? I'll have to specify the name over here. So let me check what is the name of my deployed model. So the name of my deployed model is first deployment, right? That's the name that I have given. So let me copy it and paste it in my code. This is the name. Okay, but this model is deployed using which resource? So who is the provider? So I will say it's this resource to which I have connected to, OpenAI resource. I've already got access to it. Okay, so let me connect to it. In order to connect to it, let me perform another import over here. So from Pydantic AI library, I'll perform another import. From Pydantic AI library, I'll perform another import. Let me do that. Let us do it. Okay, and what I will do is, using it, I will try to specify that, okay, this is the resource where my model is deployed, which is the resource I have connected to that resource in line number 4. Okay, I have connected to that resource in line number 4. So I'll say using this resource, I have deployed a model. Fine. And with this, hopefully I'll be able to connect to my model. Now let me run the code. Currently there seems to be some syntax related issue. Let's see over here. Okay, first of all, at the top, I'll solve a syntax issue. Okay, now let me run the code. Let's see. I hope Pydantic AI library is installed successfully. If it's not, I will install it. No worries. Yes, it says it's not installed. So let me install it. I'll just say pip install. Please install this library called Pydantic AI. And it will install it for me. So even in your case, you will not have this library installed. So you will have to install it. Okay, so we'll wait for the installation to complete. Let's wait. Okay, let me run the code. Most probably what I will have to do is I will have to restart either my coding tool or my laptop. Yeah, okay. As you can see, even that installation is not reflected. Let me do one thing. I will have to close this and restart my coding tool. Maybe that might help. So I've launched my coding tool again. Let's see if that helps me. I'll try to run the code. Okay, still that Pydantic AI library, it seems that it is not installed properly. That is strange. Okay, maybe I will have to. What should I do? Maybe should I connect to another interpreter? Let me install it, or else last option that is left is restart the system. but I want to avoid doing that. Okay, let's say without that, whether the installation is reflected. Let me see. I'll try to run this code. Let's see whether the Pydantic library issue still exists. Okay. Okay. So here, let me write the correct code. Let's see now. Okay, fine. Now I don't see any error as such. Fine. Now I don't see any error. When I run the code, I do not see any error. Fine, perfect. So it seems that Pydantic library issue has been sorted. All right, so I've successfully installed that library. Not to worry. All right, coming back to our concept that we are learning, we were talking about agent. So as we discussed earlier, that the Gen AI model can only answer on information that it is trained on. If you ask it to answer on stuff that it is not trained on, it will not be able to give you the answer. For example, if you ask it stock price of Apple today, it will not be able to give you the answer. If you ask it what is the weather of Mumbai today, it will not be able to give you the answer. So what if you want to extend the capabilities of Gen AI model by making it answer stuff outside of its training data? For that, we will need help of a concept called agents. So what is an agent? An agent is nothing but a tool that will help the Gen AI model answer something outside of its training data. Okay. A agent is nothing but a tool that will help the Gen AI model answer something outside of its training data. So in order to create an agent, make sure that the code of your agent is written inside of a function. We have done that, right? The code of our agent is written inside of a function. Now what I will do is I will declare that I want to attach some agents to my model. Okay. I am already connected to my model. To this model, I will try to attach some agents. In order to attach some agents, I will have to make a declaration. Okay. So let me make a declaration over here that using Pydantic AI, I am going to create agents. Now for that, we'll need help of this agent class that I'm importing. Let me call it. And here what I will do is I will just declare that to my model, I want to attach some agents. To which model? To this model connected, to which we connected in line number 12. To this model, I will try to attach my agents. Okay. So to this model, we'll try to attach our agents. Fine. Now, coming back to our concept of agents, as I mentioned, whenever you're writing code for an agent, that code has to be written inside of a function. Once you have done it, then you need to declare that this function is not a normal Python function. It's a special function. Okay. It's a special function containing the code for your agent. So I will declare it by adding a decorator at the top, saying that this function called get stock price is not a normal Python function. It's a special function containing the code for your agent. It's a special function containing the code for your agent. Okay, now let me go ahead. And what I'll do is once I have declared that, okay, this is the code for my agent and I want to attach this to my model. Now, whenever you will pass an input message to the model, okay, for whenever a input message will be passed to the orchestrator in the agentic AI library, currently the agentic AI library is Pydantic AI. The orchestrator will decide whether the input message is relevant to the agent or it is not relevant to the agent. And how will it decide that? It decides that based on two things. One is whenever you are creating an agent, that agent obviously has to be written inside of a function, right? So make sure to take care of two things. First, pass a meaningful function name, which I have done. Second, pass a meaningful function docstring. Okay, so I'll pass a function docstring indicating what this function will do. So I'll say this function will give me the latest stock price. Okay, it will give me latest stock price. So make sure to take care of two things. Whenever you are creating an agent, yes, the code for your agent will be written inside of a function, but make sure to take care of two things, that that function should have a meaningful function name and it should have a meaningful function docstring. Based on these two things, the orchestrator in Pydantic AI library will decide whether your input message is relevant to the agents or not. If it is relevant to the agents, it will run the code for the agent and give you the answer. But if it is not relevant to the agent, let's suppose I ask a question like, what is Java? This is not relevant to the agent, right? In that case, it will ask the model to answer directly from its training data. Okay. So the orchestrator in the agentic AI library, in this scenario, the agentic AI library is Pydantic AI. So the orchestrator in the agentic AI library will decide whether the input message is relevant to the agent or not. If it is relevant to the agent, it will run the code for the agent and give you the answer. But if it is not relevant to the agent, then it will answer directly from the training data. Okay. Now, as I mentioned earlier, whenever you're writing code for a agent, that code has to be written inside of a function. And depending upon the agentic AI libraries, it will have different rules. For example, in Llama index library, your function just has to be a normal Python function. Okay. Whereas in Pydantic AI library, at the start of the function, you have to mention a keyword called async. Okay, you have to mention a keyword called async. So different libraries will have different rules. In Pydantic AI, you have to mention this keyword async. Okay, which I have done. In Llama index, you don't have to do this. You just create a simple Python function. But in Pydantic AI, you have to do it. Fine. As I mentioned, the code for your agent has to be written inside of a function. That function we have declared that it's not a normal Python function. It's a special function containing the code for your agent or containing the code for your tool. Okay, that agent or that tool we have attached to our model. Okay, fine. Now let me pass a input request to my model. In Pydantic AI, whenever we pass an input message, that needs to be passed in an asynchronous manner. So let me pass it in an asynchronous manner. So I'll write some lines of code which will get executed in an asynchronous manner. So I will say I'm passing a request to the model. I'm passing an input message asking a question like, what is the stock price of Apple? Now, unless and until I get a response from the model, other processes should wait. Okay, no other process should run, other processes should wait. Only once I get the result from the model, then only other processes should run. Okay, fine. So once I get the result from the model, I'll go ahead and print the result to you. Okay, so first of all, I'll convert the result to a string and I just want to see the output of that result. Other metadata I don't want, the main output only I want to see. Fine. Now, let's go ahead. And I think I'm done with most of my code. Okay. Since this part of my code, I want to run it in an asynchronous manner, I will need help of async.io library. Let me take help of async.io library over here. So I'll take help of async.io library. Let me import it. Okay. And I will say this part of my code, which is written inside of my main function, I want to run it in an asynchronous manner. Okay. So I will say I want to run this main function in an asynchronous manner. Fine, let's see what will happen. I will go ahead and run my code. Please note that the code for your agent has to be written inside of a function. Okay. And the once you pass an input message, then the orchestrator in the agentic AI library will decide whether the input message is relevant to the agent or not. How will it decide? Based on two things. The code for your agent is written inside of a function, right? So take care of two things. First, give a meaningful function name. Second, give a meaningful function docstring. Based on these two things, the orchestrator in the agentic AI library will decide whether the input message is relevant to the agent or not. If it is relevant to the agent, it will run the code for the agent and give you the answer. But if it is not relevant to the agent, let's suppose I ask a question like, what is the full form of HTTP? This is not relevant to the agent, right? In that case, the orchestrator will ask the model to answer directly from its training data. Okay, fine. Currently have a look at our input message. Is it relevant to the agent? Yes, it is. In that case, the orchestrator will use the agent's code and give us the answer. Let's see if that happens. Okay, let's see if that happens. If we get some error in the code, we'll try to solve it. Currently, we see an error. Let me try to solve it. Okay, my mistake, guys. Over here, I need to write proper code. And now it should work. Let's see if we still get an error, we'll solve it. Okay, it says request library not imported. Yes, we forgot to import it over here. So let me import it. Let me run the code now. Let's see if there's any error. We'll try to solve it. So here we pass the input message. This input message is relevant to the agent. And I was expecting that it should run the code for the agent and give me the answer. But here it didn't run the code for the agent. I wonder why. Why did it do it? Anything wrong in my agent's code? I do not see anything wrong in my agent's code. Is my API endpoint creating an issue? Maybe that could be a reason. Okay, because even yesterday, Alpha Vintage APIs created a issue. Okay, but apart from that, in my agent's code, there is no problem whatsoever. Okay, but I'll do one more thing. Okay, I'll do one more thing just to prove that there is no issue with our code, the one that we have written. I will create another agent, this time with a different API. Okay, let me scrap Alpha Vintage API. It's a free API. Sometimes it creates issues. No worries. Our approach is right. We'll create one more agent. Let's suppose I want to go ahead and create weather agent. Okay. Just like I created agent for getting stock price, let's suppose I'll create agent for getting weather data. Now, how to get weather data? Please note that whenever you are writing code for agent, that code has to be written inside of a function. By the way, let me test the above code, the one that I wrote for my stock agent. Is that working? Yes, that is working. Then how come this is creating issue? Let me see. If my API is working, this should not create a issue. Let me see. Is there something that I have left? Something that I have missed? Let me check. If something is missed, we'll try to correct it. Anything that is missing over here? API key seems to be correct. My API endpoint seems to be correct. Okay, this seems to be correct. Okay, no worries. Over here, what we'll do is we'll try with a different API endpoint. Let's see. By then, hopefully, our agent should work. No worries. Our second agent will definitely work. Okay. We'll make our first agent also work by the end of this lecture. Okay, but let's see. We'll try to figure out why our first agent is not working. It should work. We'll make it work by the end of our lecture today. Till then, we'll create a second agent, guys. Please note that an agent is a tool that will help the GenAI model answer something outside of its training data. Okay. So for example, the model is not able to give me weather information, for example. We'll create an agent for that. Remember, whenever you're writing code for an agent, that code has to be written inside of a function. Okay. That code has to be written inside of a function. Let me do it. So what I'll do is I'll create a function. I will say that this function will help me to get weather data. Okay. It will help me to get weather data. Fine. Let's do it. Let's get it over here. I will try to get weather data depending on the location of a place. I want the weather information about that place. Fine. So just like earlier, how did I do? I passed the request to some API endpoint, right? This time also I'll do the same thing. It's just that this time my API will be different. This time I'll get a API using a website called weatherapi.com. Okay, which is a reliable website. It has reliable APIs. Let me go ahead and log into this website. I'll try to log in. It will ask for my username and password. So I'll try to provide it. I hope the username that I provide is a valid username and a valid password as well. Let's provide it and let's see. Am I able to successfully log in? I should be. And yes, I am able to log in. You can see a API key is mentioned. I'll copy it and that key I'll paste in my code. Now I'll change my API endpoint as well. Okay. So to get weather information, I'll need a different API endpoint. If you don't know which API endpoint to use, it will be shown in the documentation of that website. But I already know the API endpoint. I've already used it multiple times. So I'll just write it on my own over here. It is https://api.weatherapi.com/v1/current.json. Okay, fine. let me go ahead. And apart from this, I will have to mention some parameters as well. So let me go ahead and let me pass values to some of the parameters. Let me do it. First, I'll need to pass information about the key of my API. Then I will have to pass information about the location for which I want weather information. So I'll say whatever location the user is passing, for that location I want weather information. Then it will ask me, do I want air quality index data? I will say no, I do not want air quality index data. Fine. And I'll pass values of these parameters as well. Let me do that. Okay. And let's see, are we able to get weather information or not? So let's suppose I want weather of Mumbai city. Am I able to get weather of Mumbai city? Let's check. Okay. Currently there is some error. Let's see what is that error. Is there some issue in my API endpoint? Yes. There's a spelling mistake. Let me correct that spelling mistake. After that, hopefully it should work. And yes, it does work. And I am able to get weather information about Mumbai. You can see I'm getting lots of information like temperature, wind, pressure, and so on. Okay. So please note that whenever you're writing code for our agent, that code has to be written inside of a function, which I have done. Right? Now make sure that this function is async. That's step one. Then declare that this function is not a normal Python function. It's a special function containing the code for your agent or containing the code for your tool. And that's it. Okay. Now, if I go ahead and ask a question like, what is the weather right now in Mumbai? Hopefully I should get that information. Let's see. Let me ask for weather information in Mumbai. Let's check. Am I able to get it? If not, we'll try to solve the issue. Let's check. And yes, I am able to get weather information about Mumbai. You can see our agent is working, right? It says weather is so and so degrees. Okay. Let's suppose you only want temperature. You will say that what is the temperature in Mumbai? And it will only give temperature information to you. And have a look. This time it will only give you temperature information. Okay, have a look. It will only give you temperature information. Okay, sorry. Currently it says I'm unable to retrieve temperature. Is this API causing issues in between? Okay, earlier it was able to retrieve, but now it is not. No worries. Let's try once again. Let's try once again. Okay, it says could not retrieve. Let me do one thing. For my agent that I'm creating, the orchestrator relies on two things, right? To decide whether the input message is relevant to the agent or not. First is give a meaningful function name. Second, give a meaningful function docstring. Let me give a meaningful function docstring. I'll say it gives weather information of a location. You can give more elaborate um, sort of what you call docstring as well. Let's see if that helps me. Or maybe I'll structure my prompt a bit better. Okay, I'll say what is the temperature right now in Mumbai? Let's check. Okay, earlier it was working, right? Earlier our API was working. Okay, is this API not reliable now? Is it creating issues in between? Just few seconds back, our agent was working and it was able to give us weather information. Okay, strange. Maybe we are using free APIs. In between, they are causing issues. Okay, let me try to put my prompt in a more bit. Okay, here what happened? It said it is asking for Mexico. No, I didn't ask for Mexico. I was asking for Mumbai. Okay, why is it causing issues? Let me structure my prompt better. Now, hopefully it works. Let's see. I'll ask what is the, it says there is some issue. Okay, I'll say what is the weather in Mumbai? Only give temperature information. Let me put it this way. Okay, let's see now whether it works. So guys, this entire decision is made by the orchestrator of the agentic AI library. If I had used the agentic AI library like LangChain, it would have been more smart. Okay, but fine. We are using Pydantic AI. As I mentioned at the start, my favorite agentic AI library is LangChain. Okay, but here, okay, again, it's not working. Just few minutes back, our agent worked. Maybe the API is not reliable, or the orchestrator in the Pydantic AI library is causing issues. In LangChain, we never face these issues, but fine. Let's see. Again, okay, the same prompt did work, right? When I asked for weather information in Mumbai, it did work earlier, and I was able to get weather information just few minutes back. I wonder how come now it is not able to give me weather information of a location. Uh, this strange because if I try this on any other agentic AI library like Llama Index, with Llama Index it will definitely work. Okay, but still, let me try to see if I can solve the issue over here in Pydantic AI itself. Let me see anything missing. And my code, I do not see anything missing. I do not see anything missing over here. This seems to be fine. What if I ask a question like, what is Java? This is not relevant to the agent. So hopefully it should understand that it's not relevant to the agent and it should answer from its own training data. Let's check. In that scenario, it should, and you can see it answers from its own training data as expected. Okay. But when I ask a question like, what is the weather in Mumbai? For some reason, it creates a issue. I wonder why. Okay, it says, and sure. Yes, I'm passing my code correctly. I guess my agentic AI library is not able to understand my request better. There's an issue with Pydantic AI because if I try the same exact thing with Llama Index, let me do the same exact thing with Llama Index here. Okay, so I'll do one thing. I'll go to or fine with Llama Index. Let me write my code from scratch only. With Llama Index, if I try the same thing, this code will work without any issues. Okay, or I can do one thing to save time. I've already created these agents yesterday, or maybe in one of my previous lectures. Let me use Llama Index over here. And I guess the same agents I have created there as well. With Llama Index, I will not face issues, is what I am assuming. Let me still show that to you. Uh, this is a more refactored version of a code. Let me try simple version so that you understand the code a bit better. Yeah, this is a simple version. Okay, let me copy and paste. And what I'll do is I'll just change the key information and all. That's all I will change. Rest of the things I'll keep the same. So I just want to show to you that if I create agents with Llama Index, I'm not expecting that in Llama Index, I will get these issues. Okay, but still, let's try. Okay, we'll see. We'll be able to test that over here. Because our approach of creating agents is correct. Okay, our approach is absolutely not wrong. Our approach is absolutely correct. There's no issue in our approach. But fine, we'll see. We'll be able to test with Llama Index as well. Okay, so that we can know if our approach is wrong or not. Our approach is not wrong, by the way, and we'll be able to see that. Let me try with Llama Index library. Okay, fine. All right, I have changed the most of the things. Our model is GPT-4. Okay, now let me post the request. I will say, what is the stock price of Apple? Okay, let me just pass this information. What is the stock price of Apple? And let's see whether it works correctly or not. It says Llama index is not installed. How come? Let me clear the terminal. See. Oh, it says Llama index not installed. That's strange. Let me install it then. If it's not installed, we'll try to install it. However, over here, this should work. Mm, it's strange. Llama index, it says it's not installed. Okay, I'll try to install it. No worries. Let me install it. I'll say pip install Llama index. I'll try to install it and let's see whether that helps us. It says Llama index is not a package. No module name Llama index. Okay. We have a library called Llama index. This should work. What has happened in the environment? You can see I'm able to install. No issues with it. But somehow, while running the code, it is creating issues. I'll try one more thing till then while it is completing its installation. Let me do one more thing. Why don't I pass a system prompt over here so that maybe I can guide the model that it is supposed to do. Okay, so I will say that now the model should not only be capable to answer something from its training data, but it should also be capable to answer about stock price, to answer about weather data. So I will say you are a helpful assistant that can fetch real-time stock price and real-time weather data. Okay, those system prompt is not mandatory, but I just wanted to check in Pydantic AI whether we are able to solve our issue. Our weather agent worked for one time, but now suddenly after that one time it is not working at all. It says it is finding weather information. Could you confirm the location? Mumbai, India. Okay, let me put it that way. This is not an issue with other libraries in Llama Index or LangChain. I do not face these issues. Okay. In one, our weather agent just worked one time, and it seems after one time it is not working at all. No worries. We'll try to make it work. Till then, let me see with Llama Index if I'm able to create the same agents or not. You can see they are the same agents: stock price agent, weather agent. Okay. Obviously, the syntax is a bit different because we are using a different library, but the overall procedure remains the same. That whenever we are writing code for a agent, that code has to be inside of a function. That function you need to declare that it's not a normal Python function. It's a special function containing the code for your agent or containing the code for your tool. Then that agent or that tool, you will attach it to your model, which we have done. Okay, fine. And now let's see. I tried to run this particular piece of code, but for some reason, the installation seems to be a mess. Okay, I can do one more thing. I guess in this folder, I should not face those installation issues. Let me try it in this particular folder. I'll try in this particular folder over here. And yes, Sanjay has raised his hand. Yes, Sanjay. Any doubt, buddy? Let me open the chat. And yes, Sanjay says, I think we should create virtual environment. Sanjay says, do we need to change the model in Llama? And I already did. I guess if I'm not wrong, I already did. Let me go back to my coding file. And yes, I already did. In Llama index, you can see my model deployment name, my model name. key of the resource, endpoint of the resource, I've already changed. Okay. So this part I have already done. We have already changed. So you're right, we should have changed and we have already done that. I just want to prove that in Llama index library, we should not get those issues. Suddenly, okay, maybe let me move on to 3.13 version. Let's see here. 3.13 version. Let me go to this particular file. How come suddenly Llama index is causing issue? Maybe because I installed Pydantic AI. Up till now, Llama index used to work correctly. That's strange. No worries. I might try to uninstall and install again, but still, let's see. Uh, okay. It says no module like this, and there's not a package. In fact, it is a package. How come it says it's not a package? Let me create a virtual environment then. If this is the issue, okay, I will create a virtual environment and let's see. With that, hopefully, I'm able to solve the issue. Issue is with respect to the library only. I just want to prove that in Llama index library, hopefully will not suffer from these issues because with Pydantic AI, what happened was our weather agent worked one time. Okay. But then the orchestrator was not able to figure out whether our input message is relevant to the agent or not. Okay. Uh, and in you can say enterprise level scenarios, we usually prefer Llama Index LangChain. I personally prefer LangChain a lot. I've never faced issues with the orchestrator in LangChain library. But fine, I just wanted to show you that even in Pydantic AI, approach is pretty similar. That whichever library you use, whenever you're writing code for agent, that code has to be written inside of a function. This point remains the same irrespective of whether we are working with Pydantic AI library or Llama Index library or LangChain library. Okay, fine. Let me do one thing. I will try to create a virtual environment. And in that virtual environment, I will try to install these libraries. Okay. Now, I'm just worried that in that virtual environment, I hope all the libraries I don't have to uh, install. But fine, let me create a virtual environment. I'll create a virtual environment over here. Let me create it and then I'll proceed ahead. Okay. And now, uh, let me do one thing. I will try to basically activate it. In order to activate, let me do one thing. I will say go inside of scripts and there is a file called activate.bat. Okay. So I wanted this file called activate.bat to run. Okay. Anyways, so guys, what I want to do is basically similarly, just like you can activate it, you can deactivate it as well. To deactivate, you just write this particular code and just run it. Anyways, over here, what I wanted to do was I wanted to create a virtual environment. And now in this virtual environment, what I'll try to do is I'll try to install the libraries. Okay. So let me do that. I'll try to install it correctly. Let me do one thing. I'll say, let me activate it correctly. Or in fact, do we have, okay, no worries. Let me try another approach for this. Let me see. Which environment I'm working in. I'm working in this environment. Okay. And we do the activation. Okay. I'm forgetting that activation code. Usually when I work with PowerShell, I just use this code, the one that I wrote earlier, this one, wherein we activate the virtual environment. I'm forgetting in Python what is the virtual environment activation script. Anyways, not a worry. Still, I guess I can manage to work with Llama index. Somehow Llama index is causing issues in installation. I guess that issue has happened because when I installed my Pydantic AI library, it has messed up something inside of Llama index. Okay, not a worry. By the end of this lecture, all of that issue will go away. Let me see one more time. Llama index. That library is already there outside of my virtual environment. Okay. Now I'm thinking if I do create a virtual environment, all the libraries I will have to install again. Is there a way I can figure this out? Maybe I can use Google Colab. I guess with Google Colab, this issue will get solved. Let me try a different file over here. I guess in Google Colab, in one installation, all this issue should be solved. Let me try with Google Colab. I'll run it. It will say Llama index not installed. So I'll install it once and then it will work. I'm expecting an error saying Llama index not installed. So I will install it in Google Colab. Yeah, it says Llama index not installed. Let me install it. Pip installed Llama index. Let us run the code. It will install the library for me. This will be more faster instead of me creating a virtual environment and installing all the libraries from scratch. Because here in Google Colab, most of the libraries are already installed. So only Llama index is not installed, which I will install it. So this is much faster way. Restart the session. And now let's run the code. Let's see whether Llama index library is reflected. I just want to show to you that in Llama index library, we should not face these agent related issues. Let's see. Okay. It says we need to install this library as well. Okay. So no worries. We'll go ahead and install it. Let's go ahead and let's install. Okay. Installation seems to be done. Now let's proceed ahead with our code. Okay. This is obviously here I'm trying to use asynchronous run in Google Colab. This is creating an issue. Okay, let me try one more thing. I just want to make a point that if I try with a different library, it should not create issues for me. Let me try with a library like LangChain. Let me open this file. And even here I have created the same, what you call agents. And I just want to run it over here in Google Colab. With LangChain, you do not need to run it in an asynchronous manner. So we should not get this async issue in Google Colab. Let me try to create a different file and let's see. So like this, guys, there are different agentic AI libraries. One was Pydantic AI, another one Llama Index. Okay, here why Llama Index is not working in my laptop because Llama Index library is creating an issue. So I try to use a different coding tool like Google Colab, which is not installed in my own laptop. But in Google Colab, then the thing is asynchronous run is causing an issue. So let me choose a library like LangChain, which does not have a hard rule that your code needs to be run in a asynchronous manner. Okay, so with Llama Index, there is no such hard rule. Fine, let's see. With Llama Index, there is no such hard rule at all. Sorry, with LangChain, I mean. With LangChain, there is no such hard rule. Let me do one thing. I will show you the code for LangChain. This is the code for LangChain. Let me copy it and paste it in a file. I'll just make sure to do some changes. First of all, I'll change my connection to the model. This is GPT-4 model, right? Let me connect to my GPT-4 model. My deployment name is correct. Let me change the key and endpoint of my OpenAI resource. Key and endpoint I'll change. Okay, and the next key and endpoint I have changed of my OpenAI resource. Let me change the key of my stock API endpoint, and let me change the key of my weather API endpoint. And that's it. Okay, this is perfect. Now let me run the code. Here, I guess I might get a issue with agent scratchpad because it stores it in RAM. Okay, let's see. I might get a issue in Google Colab with agent scratchpad. In Visual Studio, we would not have faced issues. But anyways, my libraries are messed up. Okay, it says we need to install. Fine, we'll install. Not a issue. Let's see. Before the end of today's lecture, we'll solve it, try to make our agents work. Two agents we have created, right? Stock agent and weather agent. Both the agents will try to make them work. Okay, let's see. It will give me one more error saying that one more library is not installed. We'll try to install that as well. Or if it does not give me error, then that's okay. If it already has that library, then fine. Let's see. But I might get error. And yes, I do get. Let me go ahead and let me install this library as well. I'll go ahead and install it. After installing, let's see. Try to run the code. Same thing. Okay. It says this library is not installed. Fine. One second. I'll have to change my code. It says could not find a distribution. Okay. Here the error is coming because of which line of code? Because of this line. Let me do one thing. I'll say put LangChain. This will be better. Now I guess that error should vanish. Let's check. I might get a different error with respect to another library, which will solve. Just in the next 5 minutes, you should see working agents. Okay, created. So you can see depending on the agentic AI library, there are different rules. In LangChain, you just put this decorator at the top called tool decorator. Whereas in Pydantic AI, what we do is, where did our code go? We mention a decorator called agent.tool. So syntax is different. Okay, but the overall procedure remains the same. Anyways, one more error over here. It says that we need to install this library as well. Okay, it says cannot import from here. Let's see. Let's see. It says cannot import from here. We have our code correctly written. Issue is in the imports. Let's check. This is causing the issue over here. Cannot import this particular class. Let's check if this solves the issue. I hope my library issues are solved so that you see so you see working agents here. Let me check. Says cannot import, create tool, calling agent. Okay. Uh, we have successfully imported this library as well, LangChain library. And from that LangChain library only, we are making this import. And there does not seem to be any major issue as such. From LangChain library, we have this file agents. From that file, we made this import. Now, for some reason, it is not able to successfully import that particular class. Let's check. Let's check what all things that is has it imported. Has it not imported this reusable code? LangChain. Let me import LangChain first. Let's see. So tools it has installed. It has installed this as well. Okay. So here, what reusable code do we have? Let me check. I wanted this function called create tool calling agent. Uh, has it been deprecated in the recent versions? Instead of it, do we have this function? Let me try this function then. Maybe in the new ones, it has been renamed to this function. Let's check. Okay, now we are getting issue with agent executor. Okay, how come in the new version some renaming has happened? Let's check. We'll go ahead and check our imports that have happened, and we'll try to see whether in the imports we have done, we have agent executor class present. Says it does not have this class, agent executor class. Where did that class go? It's not imported, it seems. It's not imported. We wanted this class called agent executor class. Uh, this strange. This strange. How come it has not done it properly? Pip install LangChain library. Let me just directly import LangChain library. Okay. Installation seems to be okay. All right. Maybe it has installed some new uh, version, which is not having the required imports that I'm performing. In fact, just a few days back, all of these imports work correctly. I wonder what happened now. Anyways, over here, I just tried to show you that with different library, overall procedure to create a agent remains the same. I'll go back to Pydantic AI, which is what our today's lecture was all about. Okay, and I just wanted to show to you that if you ask a question that is not related to the agents, then the model will answer from the training data. So if I ask a question like what is Java, then the model will answer from the training data. Okay. Now it says even Pydantic AI is not there. What has happened? Even this causing an issue. Let me install it. I'll install Pydantic AI. Let me install it. Just few minutes back, Pydantic AI library was there, but somehow I don't know. why the library is creating issue now. Let's check. It says requirement already satisfied. That's strange. Let me close this. Let me close all these tabs and let me relaunch again. Let's see if that helps us solve the issue. Our folder was called Pydantic AI folder, correct? Let me open my coding tool pointing to this folder. Let me do that. And let's check now. I'll run my code. Okay, we'll try to install Pydantic AI. How come now it's causing issues? Just few minutes back, Pydantic AI library was successfully installed. Let's check. And it is saying it is installed. Should I do one thing? Maybe should I uninstall the library and install again? Maybe that might help. Okay, let's see. Our library seem to be messed up over here in my laptop. No worries. Maybe I'll move on to a different environment altogether. Let's see. In this environment is Pydantic AI there. Let me move on to a different environment. I guess in this environment we had installed. Yes. Okay. And now it works. So if I pass a input message that is not relevant to my agent, then the model uses its own training data to give the answer. But if I ask a question like, what is the weather in Mumbai? Okay. What is the weather in Mumbai? So this input message is relevant to the agent, right? So it should answer direct. So the orchestrator in the agentic AI library should give us answer using the agent code that we have created. You can see we have created our agent code. At the top is our first agent code, below is our second agent code. This input message is related to our second agent code, right? So it should give us um, information based on our agent code. Okay, so depending on upon the input, the orchestrator will decide that whether the input message is relevant to the agent or not. If it is relevant to the agent, it will run the code for the agent and give you the answer. But if it is not relevant to the agent, then it will give the answer based on the model's training data. Currently, the orchestrator in our Pydantic AI library is causing issues. Our approach of creating agent is absolutely correct, but somehow it's not able to uh, uh, properly work over here. Okay. Anyways, one last try I can make before ending the session, which is that I can go to one of the folders that I had created for one of the batches. And even there, I created these agents only. Let me do one thing. Let me open one such code. You can see same agents I have created there as well. I'll do one last try. Okay, hopefully I should have LangChain library properly installed and everything. One last try just to show you that our approach of creating agents is correct. That when you write code for the agent, that code has to be written inside of a function, which we have done. Then make sure that the function is declared as a special function by putting a decorator at the top. Okay, in LangChain, we put this decorator. In Pydantic, a different decorator, but the overall procedure remains the same. One last try. Before that, I'll just make sure that all of my credentials are correct. So my endpoint of the resource, key of the resource, all of that are correct. So I've pasted the endpoint correctly. I've pasted the key also correctly. After that, okay, key, let me copy perfectly. It seems while copying, I created an issue. Let me copy it correctly, paste it. My model name should be correct. Deployment name. Okay, this is fine. Then the key of my API endpoints as well. Yep. So there are two API endpoints. One is for stock price. One is for weather data. let me run the code. This time I'm running it with LangChain library. Let's see what happens. I'll try to run my code here. Okay, let's check. The code is running. So, okay, again, some installation issue. Okay, no, there's not an installation issue. Here it says function is missing a doc string. Yes. So we'll provide a doc string. We'll say this function gives weather data. Okay, for any location. You can pass a more elaborate function docstring as well. You can see LangChain library is very strict in following good agentic AI practices. If in Pydantic AI or Llama index, if I miss function docstring, it doesn't give me error. But LangChain library is strict. That's why at the beginning I said I prefer LangChain more. Okay, because it makes sure that you follow good agentic AI practices. Fine. It's trying to run now. Let's see. And you can see our input message was not relevant to the agent. So it used the model's training data to give the answer. What if I pass a message like, what is the stock or what is the weather in Mumbai? This input message is relevant to our weather agent, right? So it should use the weather agent and give us the answer. In Pydantic AI, our weather agent worked one time, but after that it was not working only. I don't know. Maybe the uh, orchestrator caused the issue. But you can see in LangChain it is working. Is it working, guys? Yes. As I mentioned, I prefer LangChain a lot. Why? Because the orchestrator there never creates an issue. You can see here, orchestrator is not creating an issue in LangChain. That's why at the beginning of the lecture, I mentioned that LangChain library is the best library that I prefer. Okay. Similarly, guys, if I ask for what is the stock price of Apple? Stock price of Apple. Guys, is this input message relevant to our agent? Yes or no? What do you guys think? Is it relevant to our agent? Sharon, Sanjay, Saravana, Mahesh, what do you guys think? Is it relevant to our agent? This one, the input message, have a look. It's written in line number 52. 52. Yes, right? As Sanjay and Mahesh mentions, it is relevant to our agent. So what it should do, it should use the models, it should use the agent to give you the answer. Okay, and let's see if that happens. As I mentioned, I prefer LangChain. Why? Because the orchestrator in LangChain never gives an issue to me. Whereas you can see orchestrator in Pydantic AI is giving an issue. Llama index is also reliable, by the way. Okay. But still, I prefer LangChain. LangChain has never, the orchestrator in LangChain has never given an issue to me. Okay. So have a look. I have asked for stock price of Apple. And am I able to get stock price, guys? Yes, I am. You can say it says stock price of Apple is $269. So you can see the magic of agents. So our approach of agent is correct. It's just that in Pydantic AI, the orchestrator created an issue. Okay, but the approach of agent is correct. As I declared at the beginning only, if you want to create agents, my personal favorite agentic AI library is LangChain. But fine, this uh, lecture was on Pydantic AI, so we learned Pydantic AI. I'll give you the code for Pydantic AI, but you can see the orchestrator there is not that reliable. I'll give you my code in the chat, okay? You can refer it. So this is the code for Pydantic AI. But as I mentioned, guys, it's LangChain, which is my personal favorite library. You can see the orchestrator in LangChain never causes issue. On top of that, you are also able to see logs that, okay, which agent was called, what output that agent gave. That output of the agent was passed to the model. And this is the model's answer in green. The same model's answer is printed to us below in a more structured format in a form of a dictionary. Okay, but it's the same answer printed over here. So as I mentioned, I prefer LangChain library. I declare that at the start as well. And this for this exact reason that the orchestrator in LangChain has never failed me. So in enterprise level scenarios, okay, whenever I work with any clients and I want to create agents for them, which agentic AI library I use LangChain. But fine, today's lecture was on Pydantic AI. So we saw code for Pydantic AI. I've given you the code. The code is correct. Only what caused the issue? The orchestrator in Pydantic AI was not that reliable, whereas orchestrator in LangChain is reliable. Okay. As I declared this start, my personal favorite will always be LangChain. As Sanjay mentions, LangChain is mostly used. Then Savan, yes, Pradnesh Savan says, can you share code for LangChain as well? Yes, sure. I'll share the code for LangChain. Sanjay says, can we use RAG using vector databases? Absolutely, Sanjay. Okay, if you want, I will show you the code on it. Okay, I already have it. I delivered one lecture for Walmart recently where I did write code for RAG. Let me show that to you. I'll give you that code so that you can refer it. Okay, it's absolutely possible. That's why I prefer LangChain. Why? Because everything I can do with LangChain library. I can create agents. I can implement RAG with vector databases. Everything I can do. Those who don't know about RAG, don't worry. Okay, this is just for those who know. Like for example, Sanjay had asked the question. But if somebody is new, the concept of RAG, don't worry. Just stick to agents for now. But for those who don't know, RAG is a concept that is used to pass your own data, to pass your own custom data to the GenAI model. Okay. So this is the code for RAG, and you can see I'm using a vector database called FAISS vector database. Okay. You can see in my code, I have used FAISS. I'll give you this code as well, Sanjay, so that your doubt will also be over that in LangChain, can we implement vector databases? Yes, we can. And I've given you the code for it in the chat. Okay. Fine. So guys, our goal of today was to show you how to create agents. We suffered from issues while creating agents with Pydantic AI because the orchestrator there was not reliable. Whereas in LangChain, we did not suffer issues. Okay, in between, we had those library issues and all, but fine. So if you want to go for any agentic AI library, my personal favorite is LangChain. Slowly with time, your personal favorite will also be LangChain library. Fine. So that is all for today, guys. Whatever we covered today made sense apart from the library installation errors. Was it clear, guys? Overall clear, understandable, made sense. I hope it did. I hope it was valuable to you. Fine. So that's it for today, guys. And hopefully see you in some other webinar going forward. Uh, uh, Before leaving, make sure that you fill the feedback form. Shubh will paste the feedback form as well in the chat. Okay. I'll paste it again. I guess Shubh has already done it. I'll paste that feedback form in the chat. Please fill the feedback form. And I'll request that only after filling the feedback form you leave. Talking about the recording, we'll post our recording on YouTube, on our YouTube channel. Shubh, if you are live, you can communicate the duration by when you will post it. Okay, I guess Shubh might be away from his laptop, but no worries. Shubh will post the recording on the YouTube channel soon. Fine, that's it for today, guys. Thank you for attending. Have a great day and bye, everyone. Bye, guys.